Hello there, and welcome to Two Balding Nerds. My name is Kellen,
And my name is George.
and today we're going to be talking about the Book of Boba Fett, Episode 1, titled Stranger in a Strange Land.
Yes, finally the show that we've been waiting for essentially since Disney bought Star Wars. Uh, Boba Fett is finally here, and overall, I can say pretty good for showing. What do you think?
I enjoyed the episode, however, like I said, if I had to nitpick about one thing about this episode, it was the escape from the Sarlacc pit. I was really hoping for a lot more there. I was kind of disappointed when he used his flamethrower and it just kind of faded to white, and then it showed him bursting out of the sands. I was really hoping for more out of that scene. How about you?
Well, yeah, when I have a book that came out long before Disney bought Star Wars, and it did show Boba Fett like jetpacking out and his flamethrower, and he's like shooting it. It's pretty neat, artistically done photo of it, and it described that he left the Sarlacc pit. Overall, I was expecting a little bit more bombastic of an escape, but it kind of works in my mind works well with how just like how Mandalorian was and how it led into it, and seeing how damaged the armor was before Boba got it back. I go, it works in the world that Disney has established, and it's not one that I'm like hanging my hat on, being like, no, I was expecting this. This is how I imagined it throughout my entire childhood, and it did not meet my expectations. I'm going like, oh, okay, moving on. Overall, I do have to say, I really liked how the Sarlacc pit looked inside of the pit. I did not expect that at all, what that was going to look like. And the only thing I can say I really was like struggling and confused about was why the hell was there a stormtrooper in there?
Yeah, if I had to guess, I would think, this probably dates back to episode 4 when the stormtroopers are dispatched onto Tatooine and they're looking for C3PO and R2D2, and they're out on the Dune Sea. I wouldn't be surprised if, like during one of their patrols or whatever like that, he kind of just wandered off and got lost, and either he fell into the pit because they're stormtroopers and they do stuff like that, or the Sarlacc pit does, of course, have tentacles, so maybe it like grabbed him by the leg, caught him off guard, and dragged him in.
What, you think the stormtrooper's like, hey guys, I need to go take a pee, and he goes over and he's like, oh look, giant pit in the sand. I'll go over here, and then just grabbed him, pulled him in, or do you think he was trying to shoot at it and fell in?
Well, I mean, if he was trying to shoot at it, we all know he would have missed, even with it being as big as it is. Still would have found a way to miss. I don't know. Like I said, I think he just wandered over there and just, didn't see it somehow, and it grabbed him by the leg and dragged him in, and that was all she wrote, Irene.
I guess it just I was like, if it was a different one of Jabba's henchmen, who the multitude of people who fell into the pit, or maybe even like a part of Jabba that maybe was a searing piece of flesh that blew up with the uh, like sand barge he had.
Sail barge, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I would maybe have been, I just would have shrugged it off and moved on, but it just threw me off being like, what the hell is he doing in here? It's like, oh, where's Waldo? Oh, look, we found the stormtrooper. He's hidden in the Sarlacc pit. And I was like, oh, odd.
Talk about convenience, though. That stormtrooper, if it weren't for him being in there, Boba probably would have died.
That is true. Or I thought he would have been, 3PO said it was like your body gets slowly eaten over the like next 1,000 years or something. So I was wondering if maybe the Sarlacc pit originally had some property to keep you alive while it slowly ate you.
Yeah, that's true, but I mean, during the scene, it seemed like he was out of oxygen and he was struggling to breathe, and that's why he used the oxygen pack on the stormtrooper, right? So maybe he would have suffocated, and then his body, slowly over 1,000 years, would have been, digested.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe it's like a paralysis thing, or maybe it was just a line that was thrown away in Star Wars because
It
I
sounded cool.
know it sounded cool, and I know Star Wars never made a line that they had to try and correct later on. 12 parsecs.
Of course. All right, moving on. How about those Jawas? I mean, between the Mandalorian and this show, they're making the Jawas seem like really mean bastards, and they're making the Tusken Raiders seem like they're actually pretty cool dudes that you'd want to go to the bar and have a beer with.
I wouldn't say I'd want to go to the bar and have beer with Tusken Raider personally. It's actually kind of funny that you mentioned that. You're right. They are slowly but surely humanizing the Tusken Raiders more and more because like they used to always just be that like, oh, you go to Tatooine in this video game and guess what? You get to kill Tusken Raiders because they're the bad guys on Tatooine.
Yeah, they're mindless drones that just want to murder and pillage.
Now they're actually becoming, as you said, they're becoming much more like their culture is being developed and stuff, which just the way that this show was portraying them and everything, I'm quite liking how they're doing that as in conjunction with also how they were portrayed in The Mandalorian. Um, but back to what you were saying about the Jawas. Overall, I don't think it's really changed the Jawas too much. They've always been little shifty thieves who just scavenge for everything that they can find because Tatooine overall is, well, it's the sandy armpit of the galaxy where everything seems to happen for some reason. But it's just like there's nothing on the planet that's really all that good. I was actually even surprised seeing Mos Espa how much more developed it was compared to what I thought it was going to be in my mind when I read about it and stuff. So the Jawas overall, I say it's kind of funny seeing them like seeing Boba Fett be like, yeah, I just got out of the Sarlacc pit, and then I get whacked in the face by a Jawa and knocked out. It's like, oh well, so much for the badass bounty hunter who just got beaten up by a 3 foot nothing and person in a robe.
You know what? It's funny you say that because one of the things I wrote down here about this episode that just kind of annoyed me was that whole episode. He was just getting his ass kicked over and over and over again, and I'm not accustomed to that. I was really expecting him just, to kind of wipe the floor with everybody, but it was kind of the opposite of that.
Well, to be fair, up until the season 2 of the Mandalorian, did Boba Fett actually ever do anything on camera where he did not get his ass kicked? Like he got killed, he got sent into the Sarlacc pit because blind Han Solo whacked him in the back and he fell into the pit. So he seemed to have quite a long history of getting his ass kicked as far as the movies were portrayed. It was only if you were people like us who went and read about him and saw other things about him that you saw him being more of a badass.
Yeah, and I think I've been hearing a lot of people complaining about sort of his demeanor in the show so far. Like a lot of people, like you mentioned, are kind of more familiar with Boba Fett from the books and the comics of the olden days, and his character is not really meshing with what we're seeing on screen. And a lot of people are upset because they want badass Boba Fett to go around and kind of just like kill people and shoot people first and ask questions later sort of deal and kind of assert his authority that way. But we're seeing a much more tamer and milder Boba Fett. How do you feel about that?
Well, Boba Fett, I don't think is actually a shoot from the hip kind of character ever. He has always been a very calculated character. He's just trying to make money and do what he's capable of doing because he's talented at what he does. Um, so I can definitely say though it is throwing me off a little bit of how nice he's being. I'm hoping that that he like it's at least explained of why his character has shifted so much from episode 6 to where he is now, and I'm assuming that's going to be explained because of how they keep on doing flashbacks in this season's or episode so far. I'm assuming it's going to be in the rest of the season. um and yeah, I'm kind of waiting to see how they explain why his character's like that because I overall prefer the kind of mystique and cold, callous nature of Boba Fett before. But at the same time, just thinking about it, like in The Mandalorian, uh, they started to show that Boba was caring a bit more because, like, once he got his armor back, he was like, "Oh, okay, well, you have to save a little green alien. I guess I'll help you with that." Whereas I go, old Boba Fett would be like, "I got my armor back. You can suck it, nerd. I'm leaving."
Yeah, like I've got things to do that involve my interests, and that's all I care about, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it seems like there's quite a character shift of Boba's, which I go if they don't give an explanation, I'm going to be kind of ticked. But I am hoping and expecting because they have several episodes to do this that they're going to give kind of an arc to his story where they explain why he went from being the badass bounty hunter he is to like more of this more benevolent dictator kind of idea instead of just a guy being like, I need to make money. I'm good at killing people. I'll go do that.
Yeah, that's fair. How do you feel about the Major Domo character, the mayor's right hand worm, so to speak?
Yeah. Yeah, he's a worm. he's he's kind of like I'd almost say like a more pathetic version of Grima Wormtongue from the Lord of the Rings. He's just uh, he's just so pathetic. At the same time, it makes perfect sense in this kind of world that kind of like Bib Fortuna was quite not quite as pathetic as this guy was. But these like bosses or whatever the heck the mayor is, always seem to have these really, really weak characters that they just have following them around and doing their stoogey work for them. Because if you're a big bad boss like Jabba the Hutt or whoever, you don't want someone who actually questions you. Kind of like, funny enough, Boba being a different character than that. He has uh, Fennec Shand, and she has been throughout the episode kept on giving him advice and pretty much telling him, "Hey, that was a bad idea. Hey, that was a bad idea." Like almost everything he's been doing, she seems to be kind of about, but she's still seeming to be loyal to him.
But that's the
So
thing, though, is you sometimes you need people to challenge you to make it better, right?
yeah, that's true, and that's a different style of leadership. You can either be top heavy, where you will be like, "No, I am absolute authoritarian in power," and that's what mostly Jabba the Hutt and it seems like Bib was trying to do, and what this uh, the mayor's lackey, probably the mayor is like too, and they get lackeys like this guy to just go around doing their work because they don't want him to actually think about it and actually go like, "Hey, boss, that might be a good idea." Because if Jabba had anyone who'd be like, "Hey, Jabba, that's not the greatest idea," he'd be like, "Oh, okay, you're dead. So, rank or meat."
That's true. Moving on through the episode, what did you think of the fight when Boba Fett was confronted by all of the assassins trying to kill him?
I thought it was a little odd in honesty that when he shot his like rocket, that it knocked him and Shand back, but the other guys all stood there quite okay. I was like, shouldn't physics be if there was that much force that it sent them flying back that it would send you guys back a little bit too? And also the other time, I just kept on thinking to myself, why are you not using your jetpack? Just fly out of there.
Yeah, that's immediately what came to mind for me was, you have this thing attached to your back. I know you know how to use it. We've seen you use it. Why are you not using it in a situation like this where you were surrounded and having the high ground would be very useful, you know? Or or even the Captain America defense where it's like, oh hey, they have a shield but their feet are wide open. It's like, why don't you use your flamethrower and like blast them like all around the ground, you know just do something that seems logical. Like, a lot of times when you're watching movies or whatever, you from time to time, 20 minutes, 30 minutes after you watch the movie, you'll go, oh hey, why didn't they do that? Like, that would have made more sense to do this. This was like very glaringly obvious, like in your face. Hey, he has a jetpack, he could just fly over them and make his life way easier. But no, he doesn't. It was just illogical, and it was really frustrating for me to watch. I enjoyed it, but that aspect of it was just really frustrating.
Only thing I can maybe take a swing at and go is like, I'm not sure if they made up a thing where it's like, oh, Boba's jetpack only works if he has his helmet on or something like that. I'm pretty sure that's not how Mandalorian armor works, but that might be their excuse for it because otherwise, I just go once again, that makes no sense. That's kind of like the idea of it, in Indiana Jones, where the guy shows up with the sword and he's spinning around and whatever, and he just pulls out his gun and shoots him. It's like, yeah, that's the obvious choice. If he hadn't have done that and he had the like big fight that they had originally planned, you'd be like, well, why not just shoot him? Like, you have a gun, and he's clearly gonna try and kill you. So in this case, yeah, you have a jetpack. Why don't you fly
Yeah,
away?
of course. Totally. All right. So, moving on from that, um, what did you think of the monster that came out of the sand?
You mean Goro from Mortal Kombat?
No, I mean Machamp from Pokemon.
Yeah, yeah, Goro. I don't even know what it is that came out of the sand. I literally as soon as it came up and it started doing its thing after it killed the oh shoot, is it Rodian?
Yeah, the Rodian.
Rodian. Once it came up and killed the Rodian, I was like fatality because all I could think of was it's freaking Goro from Mortal Kombat.
That honestly was probably my favorite part of the episode because that Rodian just pissed me off to no end. So watching him get murdered by that thing in such gruesome fashion was very pleasing.
Yeah, there's actually just thinking about it. There's a lot of kind of wormy characters in the first episode of Boba Fett. We got the Jawas that stole his armor. We got the Rodian who totally screwed him over of getting out of there, and we got the mayor's lackey.
Yes, the Major Domo, as he refers to himself as. Yeah, I was watching another YouTube video by a YouTuber named Eckhart's Ladder, and he says that he watched the episode with closed captionings on, and according to the closed captionings, that monster is known as a behemoth. So take that as you will. I thought he was pretty cool. He kind of looked like if Goro had fucked a centaur. That's like probably the closest thing I could imagine uh, would make a monster like that. Definitely was really cool to see, and I like this theme of like in so far in this show and in the Mandalorian how they're introducing more and more creatures that we haven't seen that like aren't established in lore. I really like that because it keeps the world building going and it makes it just feel like more expansive than it already is. And I mean, it's Star Wars; it's a whole galaxy.
I find it actually funny. I slightly disagree. I overall I can say I'm not really hung up on it too much because I've never heard of this creature before in Star Wars. But I do like the fact when they are able to pull things from old lore and then they build it and make it its own thing, kind of like how the crate dragon from Mandalorian.
When you say old lore, do you mean like what's considered Legends continuity now? The stuff that was
Yes,
decanonized? Okay.
yes. So like the crate dragon, I same book I mentioned earlier in this video. The crate dragon literally looked like just a big old lizard, and it was big, but it wasn't the size that they made it into the
Yeah, it was
Mandalorian.
like
And,
gargantuan in that show.
and I was like, the way that they built off of that previous thing and turned it into what it is, I go, that was fantastic. And even like the spiders that was also in Mandalorian, the one in the ice planet.
Oh,
Um,
don't talk about the spiders.
but those things were originally concept art from Dagobah, if I recall. So when they take things like that and then they add that into the Star Wars lore, I'm really big into that. This Goro thing, sorry, I totally blanked on what it was called
It
again.
was
The
called a behemoth.
Yeah, Behemoth. Uh, I can say due to the fact that even us jokingly calling it Goro and Machamp, I go, it's not exactly a super rare entity of a four-armed muscular creature. So maybe there was some thing in Star Wars where it was concept art or whatever, but that's one of the few, I'd say one of the few, but probably one of the several things I'm not familiar with at all. So it just was like, oh, okay, it's a generic random monster. Okay.
Did you notice during that scene that the Tusken Raider tribe had decided to let a child go and supervise Boba Fett and this Rodian out in the desert by himself with a dog? After Boba Fett had clearly demonstrated that he was capable of taking this dog and child out if he wished to.
Yeah, that's called bootstraps. You have to teach kids to work at a young age.
Builds character.
Yes, build some damn character. Yeah, no, I did notice that, but I kind of chalked that up to Boba was chained to the Rodian, who had already proven to be the most useless thing in the world for escaping. So it was like, okay, this guy tried to leave, but this one is so stupid he didn't leave when he had a clear opportunity to do so. So we'll just chain them together, and they're not going anywhere. Um, and also the way I saw it was I was going like the Tuscans have kind of proven to be kind of they respect strength. So it's like, okay, kid, you need to take care of the two captives. If you can't do this, then you die and we move on. If you can't do this, we consider keeping you as our child because whatever. They are in such a harsh reality on Tatooine where it's like we will as long as you are pulling your weight, we'll keep you and we'll care for you. But if you can't pull your weight, we gotta let you go.
Yeah, the Tuscans definitely seem to have a survival of the fittest sort of mentality in their culture.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, with that being said, if you had to rate this episode out of 10, what would you give it and why?
I give it a 7, 7.5 out of 10. Uh, Partly because I go, there's so many. This is my concern for the Boba Fett show in general, and it makes me go. Them doing Mandalorian first, now Boba Fett is proven to be the best step they could have taken and the best course of action because there's so many things I knew about Boba Fett where I had my expectations high, like the Sarlacc pit, where I was expecting, as we described, the whole shooting out of there like a badass and shooting flamethrowers, yada yada. Instead, he popped out of the ground like a carrot. And so, if it weren't for the glory of the Mandalorian, there could be some things of me being like really concerned at the beginning of the episode. But instead, I ended up being like, no, know what? I'm interested to see this direction it's going in. I have a lot of faith in the way it's going. So certain things didn't quite hit the mark for me, but it has hit enough of a mark where I go, hey, this could, if they play their cards right, they've put up a very good foundation for the rest of the series to be absolutely phenomenal. So, uh, yeah, didn't hit quite the marks I was expecting, but not at all disappointing in the sense of, oh, this show isn't looking good. It was just, oh, okay, I had the bar set so high, it would have been really hard to have hit it, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm on the same page as you. I personally rated it 7 out of 10. And, to some people that might be listening to this, they might think that we're being harsh or overcritical and stuff like that. And I just want to say we both really enjoyed that episode. And,
Mhm.
we're very excited to see where things go. But we are also very realistic with how we look at things. And it was a good start. And, the reason why I personally rated it 7 out of 10 was, as we discussed earlier, the whole Sarlacc pit thing was a little bit of a letdown. We were hoping for kind of like a big bang at the beginning of the show to kind of get things started. And one of the things that you and I have discussed before in the past, and it seems to be a recurring thing between The Mandalorian and now this show, is a runtime. And, we're both 30-year-old dudes. We don't mind sitting around watching an hour of Star Wars. I mean, I'm sure I speak for the both of us when I say the longer the better, as long as it's, productive with the time that um, they have, and things don't drag and stuff like that. But I think there's definitely enough story material here that the episodes could all be 45 to an hour long, and this one clocked in, I think, just about at 35 minutes. So it was a little bit short, and especially for like a first episode, I was kind of hoping for like a longer first episode to sort of like establish more characters and story and stuff like that, sort of like plant the seeds. And then I kind of expected like a second and third episode to be a little bit on the shorter side or whatever. But going forward, I hope that the episodes are a little bit more consistent in terms of length. Because, like I said, there's definitely enough story there to be told. So, with that being said, I think that kind of concludes everything we wanted to talk about episode 1 of the Book of Boba Fett. And I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to talking about episode 2.
Oh, 100%. I agree. We are critical because we love it so much. And we will always point out the things that we could say we'd love to see more or compliment the things that we liked. Uh, but I am beyond excited about seeing the rest of the Book of Boba Fett.
Definitely, I agree here. Same. With that being said, We hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and we will look forward to seeing you next time. So if you enjoy what you saw here, don't forget to like and subscribe our channel for more content, and we look forward to seeing you guys next time.
See you next time.